Well, aloha, everybody. Welcome to our Friday Live. And this week we have the one and only Dan Polimino joining us from the Big Islands.
Hi, everybody. Aloha.
Aloha.
So Dan, why don't you introduce yourself to our live streaming audience? All these people home sheltering that are taking a break from their Netflix binging right now.
Yeah.
Break from working from home, and they're tuning in live right now. Tell us, who is Dan Polimino?
Well, I have a pretty diverse background. Actually, came out of Syracuse University in upstate New York and had graduated from their broadcast journalism program, the Newhouse School of Communications, and went in to be a sportscaster and did that for my first 11 years in the business. And, had a great time. Went to all the major sporting events, got to interview all of the top athletes across the world, from Muhammad Ali, excuse me, to Michael Jordan. And
wow. So we're with like a trained professional today.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Pretty
television and radio is what I did for 11 years. And so I enjoyed it. People say, well, why did you leave? One of the reasons is, believe it or not, when you're a sportscaster, and Marv Albert actually wrote a book about it. I think the book was entitled, "I'm Sorry, I Have a Game." Really, that's your sentence. You don't have much of a life. You are perpetually on the road, and you are perpetually at a game. And I had just met my wife, and we wanted to have kids, and I just knew that this lifestyle was not going to be compatible with raising a family. And so I went into the fitness business for a number of years, where I was writing for newspapers and writing health and fitness columns, and we were writing books, and we were producing videos. And then towards the end of 2006, beginning of early 2007, I noticed that disposable income was starting to fade away. And in that, I was worried that we were headed for a recession. But I didn't have enough sense to know not to go into real estate. So I told my wife, I said, well, why don't you run the fitness end of the business, and then we'll diversify ourselves a little bit, and I'll go into real estate. So my astute business sense ushered me into an industry that was headed for the worst crash in the history of the country.
So what year was this that you went into real estate, Dan?
2007. And I had a honeymoon for about 6 months before it all came crashing down. I remember very distinctly being on the phone with someone from my office in August of 2007, and them calling me and telling me that my deal wasn't closing because my mortgage lender had just closed their doors. And I'm like, what? Mortgage lenders don't close their doors just out of the blue. Little did I know that was the first of many. And what had transpired. And I was in Colorado, and Colorado was one of the first states that was into the crash, and they were one of the first states out. So there was a negative and a positive to both of the equations. So I came up in the real estate business, as they like to say. I made my bones in the real estate business in one of the most difficult environments that you could possibly do. I mean, there were people throughout the state of Colorado. I think 40 or 45% of the real estate agents dropped out of the business between 2008 and 2011, and I barely made it by the skin of my teeth.
But you made it.
I did. I was still standing when it turned around.
And you're better. We're all better for it.
Well, never mind saying we're better for it. Let's get down to the nitty gritty. What did you learn from starting at that time in the real estate industry?
Well, funny story. I am literally 6 months into the business. I'm still in my honeymoon phase when I get a floor call of someone, and I answered it, and I was a very Johnny on the spot type of guy. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. I'll do whatever you need me to do. And these people who were calling on the floor call were looking to buy a $4 million property.
Hmm.
And not only did they use me and I take them out, but they purchased a $4 million property from me. And as a brand new agent, one of my first sales was $4 million. And I'm sitting back thinking, well, shoot, this is easy. Like, there's really nothing to this. And so that was a curse and a blessing, right? The blessing was the closing. The curse was I quickly learned that real estate wasn't that easy. And what then transpired over the next several years was me figuring out that, life ain't fair. And what was happening in the real estate industry was really going to be a survival of the fittest type of scenario.
Well, and then here you are now, all the way from Colorado
Yeah.
to the Big Islands.
Yeah.
And you have a pretty big listing that you have, once again, nothing that you're unfamiliar with. So
Yeah.
let's talk about that. The journey over to the Big Island and the big listing that you got as a referral.
Well, in Denver, 21 years ago, I met a gal who was from Kona, and we got married. And I told her when we got married, she wanted to move back to Kona. I said, we will move back in 2 years. And that took an additional 19 years to actually happen. But we had been going back and forth constantly from Kona to see her family. And, I had to be the only guy on the face of the planet that enjoyed going to see his mother-in-law,
Oh.
and we eventually bought a house here 3 years ago. We were using it as a second home. And then, what happens when you buy a house, you want to go stay in it and you want to go visit it. And we just naturally started spending more and more time here. And we kind of thought that the sun was setting on my career and what I had done in Denver. And we thought it might be a good opportunity for a change. And that's why we last year decided to move here full time. I actually came here and I didn't really know what I was going to do. I had completed 1,200 transactions in 12 years, and I was pretty tired. So my only plan when I moved here was to sleep for 6 months. That was my plan, and relax. And I'm 52, so you start to get older. You take more naps, right? And so anyway, I get here and my business partners, you guys, and Colette and Lisa, they find me, and the question is, how did you find me, and they find me and they say, we don't have a Keller Williams on the Big Island of Hawaii. We've been waiting for somebody like you with your experience, because I had owned a Keller Williams office in Denver, and I had owned a Keller Williams office was investor in one in San Diego. And so I had the experience of what it took to open up a new franchise. And they said, well, would you like to open up the Keller Williams office on the Big Island? And I thought about it for a while. And at that point, I had been in the house about 5 months, and my wife was ready for me to be out of the house. And she said, I think you should do it. You've got the skill set, you've got the experience, you should go out and give it a shot. And so here I am. What is this now? 7 full months into the job. We opened up an office here in Kona. We did the build out in the middle of COVID. And, we've recruited about 32 agents to this Kona office. And we've opened up another satellite office over in Hilo that has about 13 agents over there as well. So Keller Williams' presence here on the Big Island is closing in on 50 agents in a very short amount of time, in only about 7 months.
And in the middle of a pandemic, right?
Well,
where everybody's just uncertain.
And recap it. You started in the real estate industry during a crisis, and now you're starting a whole new office. And
I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, that's exactly right. I'm so glad you brought that up. I mean, let's just pray that this isn't a continued pattern for the rest of my life, right?
Sure. And so, going back to that Holy Big Island luxury referral, so tell us about the price point and how you got this referral.
Yeah, one of the things that I try to teach agents here on the island is that, most real estate agents are accustomed to doing lead generation for buyers and lead generation for sellers. But when you're at Keller Williams, you need to be doing lead generation off of other Keller Williams agents. That needs to be a part of your daily lead gen plan. So if you're calling 5 sellers a day and 5 buyers a day, add another 5 Keller Williams agents to pick up the phone, introduce yourself, to tell them who you are, learn about their business on the other end, because Attilio, you and Adrian, you've been in with Keller a long time, and we've got this saying that what you focus on happens.
Yeah.
Right. And
Focus on expands.
yeah, and so you're talking with a guy in Sioux City, South Dakota, who's a Keller Williams agent, and you don't think for the life of you that you're ever going to run into a referral of somebody going to Sioux City, South Dakota. And lo and behold, you go on a listing appointment later that day and you say, well, so where are you headed? And they say, well, we're going back to the mainland. We're going to South Dakota. And, you just got off the phone with an agent from South Dakota. And so, I like this idea of being on the phone with other Keller Williams agents and learning about their business, learning where they are, and seeing if you can't partner up with some referrals. And this is what I did. This is what I know to do. I got here and I immediately reached out to Keller Williams agents across the Hawaiian Islands. And one of them from the Maui office called me and said, hey, I think I've got a listing for us to work on together. And it wasn't just any listing, it was a mega listing. So he had a client that had an $18 million home in the Maunalani Resort in Paoa Beach. And we did a listing presentation virtually, which is what we do these days so often. And the guy was impressed with what
we had. A COVID adaption.
Yeah, it's COVID adaption. One of the things, I did while we were in lockdown was I retooled what I had. I retooled the listing presentation. I retooled the marketing presentation. I retooled the branding. I put everything digitally so I could share it in a Zoom call. I could share my screen and do presentations virtually because I knew that's where we were headed. And that worked out well.
So you got this $18 million listing. Is there a website if any of our viewers want to take a look at what does the $18 million listing look like?
What's the website?
Website is go to the hawaiiteam.com, the hawaiiteam.com, and you'll see it right there on the front page. You can click it. And, the short answer is, what does an $18 million listing in the ocean look like? Answer, impressive.
Impressive. You know what else is impressive is that you also had mentioned, I think last time we were talking, is that there was like a KW agent that had taught themselves how to do the Matterport, and you had given her that opportunity to do this impressive Matterport tour.
Yeah, again, I'm always impressed with how resourceful people are, no matter what you throw at them. And she was a KW agent. The COVID had just struck. She was worried about her income. She quickly does adaption, and she says, well, people are going to be looking at properties virtually. Maybe I ought to teach myself how to do Matterports. She teaches herself how to do Matterports. She gets her own camera. She gets it down, and then she offers it to other agents in the office and says, well, maybe I could do this for other KW agents, and maybe I could make some money. And so that's how she gets started. And then I call her and say, well, I got a 7,000 square foot, $18 million home for you to shoot on Matterport. How do you feel about that? And she excited about that. And she came out and we got it done. That's the listing right there. It's called Honupani. And, there's everything that you would want in an oceanfront estate, from exclusivity to privacy to gated community to private beach club for members only. The house is 5 bedrooms with a total of 9 baths. Each of the bedrooms has its own ensuite. There are 4 half baths. It's got the infinity edge pool. It has a private office. It has a 8-seat theater. There's all kinds of things to like. It is all open air, as you would expect. And believe it or not, one would think that there are a lot of very expensive homes that are right on the ocean, but actually that's not the case. There's a lot of resort communities here on the west side of the island that don't have their homes right on oceanfront. In other words, there'll be an 800-foot setback or 1,000-foot setback that's a buffer between the homes and the ocean. But this one really literally is right on the ocean.
It's beautiful.
Nice.
It's a beautiful, beautiful home. So any of our viewers can go check this one out on their own. Looks like there's a Matterport tour that Attilio's clicking around in. And so how are the showings working with this COVID adaptation?
Yeah, they're by appointment only. And, we've got to adhere to all of the COVID protocols. And so you've got to wear masks, and we've got hand sanitizers, and gloves are recommended. And, we ask that the people coming through aren't touching anything, and we'll have everything opened up, and we're present for every showing, and we walk you through. And again, most of the showings that are going on aren't going to happen in person. They're going to be people that are looking at
virtually.
the website. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, we had the same thing with one of our, wasn't quite $18 million, but it was a luxury listing that they put an offer in based on going through the video and the Matterport, and they're on the mainland.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
They have not been physically through the home. And I also want to comment that we have a new construction site, and there was a sign handwritten on black permanent marker on a piece of cardboard that said "No spit in house." Do you have similar signs?
No.
No.
Yeah, we don't have that sign, but basically,
don't touch the surfaces.
Don't touch the surfaces. Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
Is this house all on one level, Dan?
It is all on one level. So there's a shot of the ocean and the pool, the edge pool, and
it feels more like I'm at one of your high-end resorts.
Yeah, it does look like a resort.
It does, and
your own private resort.
Yeah, I've got to give a shout out to my co-listing agent Tyler Coons, who is over in Keller Williams Realty Maui office, in the Maui office. And this was a client of his that he had been property managing for short-term vacation rentals. And so people were renting this, and the owner decided that he would prefer to sell it. And Tyler has a long-term relationship, and we decided to team up and work on this together.
I mean,
so I guess that leads into another question. So these are the vacation rentals. What's happening on the Big Islands with the vacation rental market and the shutdown of the state? What are you guys seeing?
Well, you can come in vacation rental. It's got to be longer than 30 days. You have to be here, and of course, for the first 14 of those, you're going to be quarantined, so you can't leave. But for all intent and purposes, the short-term vacation rental business has come to a screeching halt.
Yeah. So are you guys seeing some of these vacation rentals come up on the market, like this one? Obviously, they decided to go ahead and sell. Are you seeing that trend that's happening there on the Big Island?
Yeah, I think it's going to happen more and more. What's going to be the deciding factor is how long the leadership of the state decides to keep the state closed to tourism. And if it continues to go on, more and more people are going to be in a difficult position. We're using, short-term vacation rentals as some income, and they're going to have to decide whether or not they want to continue to carry the property or they're going to want to sell. And the question came up to me, which is, okay, we want to sell, but is there really any buyers for a short-term vacation rental that has no tourists? And the answer is,
Mm-hmm.
I actually know of quite a few buyers that are looking to pick up a short-term vacation rental, and they're okay waiting until the tourists come back.
Or even as like a second home,
Well,
right? That they don't really rent out, that it's just there for them as their. What did you say, Atilio?
no, I said if vacation rentals were allowed right now, there wouldn't be these opportunities to pick these things up. Not that they're going bargain basement, but a lot of these wouldn't even be on the market. You just said your $18 million listing wouldn't be on the market right now. So it's creating unique opportunities for the buyers.
Well, that's not necessarily his motivation, but it is some people's motivation to sell. You know, I think that the marketing of this house, and the reason why I think it will sell, even in the midst of what we're seeing right now, is do you remember the old movie called Escape from New York? I think
Yes.
we ought to bring that back in a different version, because the theme is really escape from any metropolitan city, not just New York. We get a bunch of phone calls of people looking to come to the Hawaiian Islands to escape, fill in the blank, Chicago, Los Angeles, Seattle, wherever the case may be. They want to escape the social unrest, and they want to escape the possibility of having to be locked down again in their respective cities. So, you know, people know how safe it is here at on the Big Island, and the very few, if any, COVID cases, and so they're thinking, well, if I'm going to hunker down somewhere, I'm certainly going to hunker down in paradise.
Yep. Yeah, we're seeing a lot of people that are able to work remotely. You know, they're coming out and they're just working remotely from Hawaii.
Well, we had a buyer call last week who is in Los Angeles and said, you know, my kids aren't going back to school. There is not going to be school in LA. Everything's going to be online. There's absolutely no reason for us to stay in LA. We'd like to buy a second home on the island. The kids can do school remotely from the island. And this guy's a $5 million buyer, right? So he wants to come in and buy a $5 million home because he doesn't need to be in LA for his kids' school.
So we're getting some different types of buyers now due to this, you know, the pandemic and how things are happening right on the mainland.
I mean, it's changing everything. There it is, escape from New
York. Check this out, though. This poster is going for $425.
Yeah.
All right, so
it was a good movie. It really wasn't that good, so don't spend time watching it.
So we've got about 7 more minutes left with Dan. Is what else do we want to touch on during this Friday Live with our Big Island?
How about daily habits? Daily habits.
Daily
What's
habits.
your recommendation for daily habits with the new world we're in?
Yeah, daily habits for me is that I'm up about 6. I'm usually out the door after I've checked email and done a bunch of things about 6:45, and I gotta get some exercise. So I'm a gym rat. I like to go to the gym, and I usually clear my head there, and it helps me set the day for the things that I've got to do or the things that are important. And then I usually grab some breakfast. I usually do my Bible study at breakfast. And then I get into the office and I start, you know, tackling email and tackling my to-do list. And my day will consist of meeting with agents that are interested in possibly having their careers here at KW. It will be involved in some of the listings that work that has to be done here. And then, you know, I try to get out of here about, you know, 5:30, 6 o'clock. My wife definitely likes me to be home by 6 to have dinner with the kids. My son just turned 15 on Wednesday, and my daughter's 12, and they're in a very impressionable age, you know, where they need their dad. And so I'm trying to be there for them.
All right.
Now, wait, I've got a question on your habits, because there was something that you had mentioned that just stood out. It was something so simple, and it ties back into the referrals, right? Mm-hmm. You're just still like answering your phone, taking the time to have the conversation, right? I think you had shared a story where, you know, you had a pretty decent referral for this other KW agent, and because they were just kind of rude that you're like, oh,
Don't tell his story. Dan,
okay,
tell
so
us.
just talk to
Yeah,
us about the habit of communication and answering your phone.
when I'm sending out referrals, I'm going through our KW referral program, and I'm trying to find the top agents in markets. And I've got a rule that I'm going to call the top 3, and if you don't answer your phone, you don't get the referral. And then I want to just have a conversation and connect with the agent and figure out if they're going to be a fit for my client. But more than you cannot believe how many agents don't answer their phone, and you can't believe how many agents answer the phone and treat you on the other end like you're an inconvenience, like you're bothering them. And that certainly happened more than once. And one time, this guy realized that I was a Keller Williams agent. I presented myself as a Keller Williams agent. He just didn't know I was a Keller Williams agent that was going to give him a referral. He thought I was probably an agent asking a question about one of his listings or something, and I was bothering him. And he made it pretty clear that I was bothering him. And so I actually didn't even launch into the conversation about the referral. I just told him to have a good day and thanked him for his time, when he frantically realized that he may have made a mistake and tried calling me back 6 times to see if he could get the referral.
Too little, too late. And speaking of someone saying hello, do you know this person?
Yeah. That's my auntie. Yeah. Missing all my family in Syracuse. I'm coming back at the end of the month. I'll be there.
That's right. You're going for a visit. So back to the habits though. Just answer your phone and be polite.
Yeah,
right?
Totally.
Be polite.
And talk about mindset. What should be our mindset? I mean, and how important is it?
Well, you asked me, I think the mindset is that of gratefulness. Attilio, we did a Monday mindset call, and you asked the question at the end of that call on a Monday night several months ago, Dan, what did you learn out of COVID? You remember asking me that?
Sure.
Yeah. And I said, what I learned out of COVID is, even though we all don't like it, even though we all want things to go back to normal, even though we want it all to be over, don't wish this time away. Because during this time, you are meant to learn something. You are meant to feel something. You are meant to be in this moment. And if you wish this time away, you'll miss it. And the example that I gave Attilio was, when your kids are born until the time they get off to college, you have 6,500 dinners, if you do the math, right? 0 to 17 or 18, it's about 6,500 dinners. And when you look at it that way and you think, oh my gosh, they're going to be off to college. Micah turned 15, and I did the math, and I have 1,095 dinners left. I'm down to 1,095 dinners. And had I wished this last 6 months away, I would have wished a portion of those dinners away. And I don't ever want to do that.
Yeah. So awesome. And so that's your adaptation and your self-realization and what's the priority in your life. We do know, and the last thing we'll kind of wrap it up with is, I'm going to share a quote here, and give us your feedback. What are your thoughts on this quote? It's I think it's from John Maxwell. Colette's been the one that shared it with me. But here's the quote. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, my father used to say something very similar. He used to say, Daniel, everything changes. The only thing that's constant is death and taxes. He said everything changes, and you got to change. It's hard, it's scary, but through it all, if you can rely on your faith like I do, that there's a master plan, and that God's got my back and he's got my best interest, then I think you can do what the sentence says, which is grow. And some of us grow slower than others. Some of us really need the old 2x4 upside of the head to learn the lesson. That'll ultimately be your choice, your decision on how quickly you're going to grow.
We can either be reactive or proactive in our growth.
Sure.
Um,
So,
go ahead.
speaking of growing, if you are an agent and you want to grow your business, grow your mindset, grow better habits, you're gonna go connect up with Dan on the Big Island.
That's right.
He's got lots of resources and experience, and is just a fabulous agent and mentor.
What's a good number for people to reach you at?
Yeah, they can call me at 808-987-3306. 808-987-3306. I get a lot of agents that come in here and they always want to know how you're different or how Keller Williams is going to help. And I said, well, listen, for one thing, you don't need to know what I know after 1,200 transactions. Your job is just to come in here and sap my brain for everything that's in it. Just ask me question after question and let me help you build your business.
I heard
it's that easy.
Yeah. I heard what you do is you sit in one chair, they sit in one chair, and what you guys have installed is a USB port on the back of each chair. And then people will get up and say, "I know Kung Fu." No, that's
that would be so much more efficient if I could do that. If I could just pour out, the knowledge of the last 13 years. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we are at the end of another, we're doing this every Friday where we just bring on different guests to live stream on all our different platforms.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we will have you back on here because you know why? You know what? Here's the next invitation for you when this happens. When that thing closes.
Yes. We'll have you back on. You're going to tell us the story.
We'll tell you the transaction. Yep, you bet.
The Big Island. You're going to share with us the awesome story on that one.
Yep, we'll do.
All right. Well, happy Aloha Friday, and thank you for joining us. Guys. And we'll see you again soon.
Thanks. Enjoyed it.
Yeah, we're
Aloha.
sending a nice picture of their home that they're going to purchase. And that's it. Aloha, Adrian.